Hi everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Non-Native Leader, my video podcast series where we explore stories of people who were not born in English-speaking countries, but they're having an international career using, guess what, English as their language. People who work in fintech, IT, the arts, cinema, loads of different perspectives, a lot of different people. And I like talking to people and I like talking to diverse people. My name is Daniele and I'm the host of the Non-Native Leader podcast. And I'm really happy to have here with me a colleague, Anna
Hello.
Beregovia. Hello, hi
Hi.
Anna.
Hi, Daniela.
I say,
Fantastic to be here.
I have already
Yes.
spoiled you're a colleague. So, because my next question was going to be, what do you do, Anna? But you know
What
it,
what do you do for a living? Yes. Well,
exactly.
you've already spilled, all the secrets. Um, I am equally language trainer and a business communication coach for non-native professionals, mainly for the European companies. I help people whose native language is not English, but they have to use English on the daily communication to talk to their other non-native colleagues. So I love exploring how to help them build this communication in order for the whole thing to work, so that everyone understands each other. Um, and yeah, my personal favorite about this whole thing is that I feel that the English has been undergoing such a massive transformation with all my clients, all my professionals. And it's really fun to watch. So that's what I do for a living.
Great. So okay. That's you explain it much better than I did. But at least you proved that I was not lying. You are a colleague. So we
I
share
am a colleague indeed.
some of the things we do, and we
Hmm.
share the same passion for language, I suppose. But yeah, we're going to
Definitely.
explore that a little bit more.
Definitely.
And the
Hmm.
next question was going to be, where are you from, Anna? And where are you?
Um, okay, originally I was born in Russia and I lived in Russia the biggest part of my life. There were a couple of years that I traveled around the world mainly, and then I came back to Russia. But since the Russian invasion in 2022, we have been displaced and we are currently living in Georgia, in a fantastic city of Batumi, which is right on the coast of the Black Sea. So this is where we are located at the moment, my family and I.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. So we have clarified the basics. Yeah. So your job, location, and nationality. That's,
Mhm.
I want to be polite. Yeah. So ask the
Mhm.
the basic question first.
Please do, please do.
Um.
Mhm.
Okay. So I mean, you mentioned, yeah, you traveled. You were born in Russia. You traveled a little, but you've lived there most of your
Mhm.
life. You lived there most of your life, and then you obviously moved for the reasons
For
we know.
sad
Yeah,
reasons,
yeah.
right?
So probably
Hmm.
wasn't your choice, because we often talk about traveling as something people do for pleasure, but sometimes,
Hmm.
yeah, it isn't really our choice. And yeah, so this is something different. Yeah, right. So
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
so obviously talking about challenges in traveling and challenges in international experiences.
Hmm.
Uh, so what has been for you the main challenge in your international experience before, let's say you were,
Hmm.
let's say, forced to travel, and also after, because you have two different faces, two different sides to your story, I think.
I think that's such a good question because they are, simultaneously they are very different, but in so many ways they are the same. Because I started working with European companies about 11 years ago. And for me, the biggest challenge was not even the language. I think it was the identity. You start working in an international team and suddenly you are a foreigner, suddenly you're an outsider. The team is not so homogeneous as you used to have it back home in your Russian speaking school. And then you just discover that there's this question of who am I here? Like I would sit with my colleagues and I would constantly doubt myself. Like, do I have a place here? Like I am just a simple Russian girl. Do you really want to see me here? There's a lot. I think there's frustration and
Mm.
anger at yourself, first of all, like you are. you have this massive imposter syndrome. You are a foreigner, you're an outsider, and then you get angry at yourself for not fitting in quicker and faster. You just kind of force yourself into the environment. And then most definitely, you feel lonely sometimes, like working in an international team, it's a fantastic experience and it teaches you so much and it enriches your expertise and it enriches your experience in so many ways. But sometimes it feels lonely. It feels like you don't really belong.
Yeah.
So the identity seems to be the huge problem for me, at least. And I think similar to what we've experienced immigrating from Russia to Georgia, it was also a big identity crisis for me, because since my personal story is a bit complicated. My family is Ukrainian, so we were literally forced to leave Russia under the conditions. So it was a big question of the identity. I was born in Russia, and I lived there all my life, and then suddenly you just the whole world explodes, and you don't really know who you are, and you don't really know what you do. So it kind of the same. You are feeling an outsider in your own country, and then you are being the foreigner once again. And the whole buffet starts again, the frustration, the self-doubt, the
Yeah.
imposter, the anger. It's like no one tells you about this, like there is this truth that you move, and that's like once you I don't know, for instance, people say once you speak good English, you will just glide into the global market. Everything would be super duper easy. I think the
It's not,
emotions they
yeah.
would come with you in the suitcase, whatever you are and whatever your situation, life situation is. So
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. I guess many people can identify with the imposter syndrome, with the
hmm
loneliness. Well, at least I
hmm
can. I mean, my story is totally different from yours, but the first time I moved, that was exactly how I was feeling.
hmm
You're new in a different country, different culture, and
hmm
so in a way, you need to, yeah, you use two keywords there: fit in and belong, right? Because
hmm
first you're
hmm
trying to fit in, and it's hard because
it's
it's
very
you
hard.
trying to change and adapt, but then
hmm
things change when you feel like you belong, which is something different. So
hmm
it's in a way it's a new you in a new environment, but it's you, right? So you're not trying to squeeze into a place
hmm
where someone else wants to put you, or you're trying to fake until you make it. And
Yeah.
that's what I think when I have in mind when I think about fitting in.
Yeah.
When you belong, I feel okay. Now this is the place, and I can be me, or in a different
hmm
place. So, but I
hmm
guess that's a huge difference. And like I don't know, maybe
There's
like
a huge
yeah,
difference. Yes, I agree with you. I think for me it was a turning point, and for many of my clients, it's also a turning point. When once you stop chasing this ideal that you kind of, or maybe the ideal that the society is pushing on you. For us, for the language teachers, is basically we do have this ideal of a native speaker like professional, and you're constantly chasing it, but you are just I was not born in any of the English speaking countries. I'm not a native speaker. I could never be a native speaker. I could, pretend as much as I like to be to sound British or Irish or American, but I would never be, in fact, a native speaker just because I was not born there. So it's kind of that's an interesting distinction that you mentioned, that we don't have to erase our identity. We don't have to pretend that we are someone else. Like everything you have, you could bring it to the table. And then you see this when you see your multilingual brain as a superpower, like wow, I not only do I speak English, but I also speak Italian and Russian and Ukrainian and Scottish and whatever languages you're speaking. It's valuable, so you should bring everything in, and it becomes easier in a way. Yeah,
yes, absolutely. And I love the way you frame this as a superpower because in reality, that's what it is,
it
because
is. Mm-hmm.
bringing our identity there and the way we are unique.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I think, and I totally agree with what you said. That's what we do, we don't
Mm-hmm.
go there and yeah, you can try to fake it, but I don't think it's valuable because eventually you're going to be somewhere else, someone you don't want to be really.
Mm-hmm.
But
Hmm.
if you are yourself, and yeah, the way I like to say it is like find your own voice in a different
Hmm.
language, which is just exactly what we try to do. Yay.
Hmm.
More things in common. I love
We
this.
do, we do. But I do think that we have, as an industry in itself, we are both teaching English, and this industry is kind of, it's immensely discriminatory for non-native teachers, like we are literally forced, to try and adapt and to try and pretend and strive for an ideal that is not reachable at all. So, and I do know a lot of teachers who are also non-native teachers back in my home country or even here in Europe. Um, we do have this self-discrimination, like even before the market discriminates yourself, you are discriminating yourself against it. You have this internalized belief that you somehow, if you compare yourself to a native speaker, you would be less than. And in reality, it's not true. That's like
Yeah.
there is no perfect native speaker. It's a preconceived notion. It's something that has been created artificially. It does not exist. But for many of us in the industry, we suffer not only from this imposter syndrome, but we suffer from this like internal discrimination. Like, how could I do this if I am not them, whatever
Yeah.
them are. So.
Exactly. Yeah. Define them.
Mhm.
It's
Exactly.
impossible.
Exactly. But
Impossible
it's
to
kind of
define.
it's even worse in the industry because I sit down with people who are engineers and doctors and um, IT professionals, and for them it's kind of you have a place in the market even if English is not your native language. For us, it's even harder. You have to prove that you indeed have this place at the table. You have to be, like you have to work twice as hard to get there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And you say it many times, like some people get away with, yeah, just because they have a different passport, so they get away
Hmm.
with, I don't know, maybe being yeah, being not so skilled, let's say.
Yeah.
And then you have
Yeah.
to double up on your skills just to be there. It's unfair, but it's the way the market goes, I suppose, and the way, yeah, there's a lot of marketing in there, selling
Oh
the
yeah,
selling a
definitely.
flag, selling I don't know,
Dangling the carrots, this
yeah,
perfect little dream that is, not the reality at all. But
uh,
yeah, um, the industry is like it's really difficult in us. So
yeah,
it takes a lot of mental power to kind of to even allow yourself to sit at the table. Can I not? Is there a
yeah.
place for me? Yes, there's always a place for you. Like
There is
you just
indeed,
have
yeah.
to, you have to go there. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And I suppose it takes a lot of mental work and
Hmm.
something like
Hmm.
to overcome the imposter syndrome, the perfectionism,
Hmm.
because yeah, it all doubles up when first you're speaking a language which is not yours, and then you're trying to work in that language.
Hmm.
So, like, how was it for you? How did you do it? How did you overcome, or how did you make peace with that sort of feeling?
It was a crazy ride. I tell you what, it's kind of. I remember the beginning of it, like being a young girl, and trying to enter the European market, and I would sit down with CEOs and professionals, and they would tell me like, "Wow, that was really cool. Thank you so much for a lesson." And I would doubt it. I would look around the room, and I was like, "Are you talking to me?" It's like, "Are you sure?" I was having this constant self-doubt, like certainly you're going to discover that I'm not the native speaker, that I just pretend to sound like a native speaker. Certainly you're going to discover that I'm actually from Russia, and then you would want to stop working with me. No one ever commented on me being Russian. But I always had this internal dialogue telling me that I'm not good enough just because I'm not a native speaker, just because I don't know business. I don't know, I've never worked at the office. I'm not a native speaker. English is not my first language. Even with all these certificates and diplomas that we gather as teachers, you still feel that you're not good enough. You find a reason.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it is. It's a true feeling. and you end up piling up certifications just to prove the world, look, this is me, but this is a better version of me because it's certified. Yeah,
Certified.
it's
This
yeah,
version of me is certified. Yeah.
exactly. It's like you are, I don't know, you feel like, yeah, you have to put a stamp, say, look, this is a genuine one, you can work with him or her. And true, yeah, it is hard. It was hard for me anyway, yeah, to
Was
get
it?
started. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so I feel like it resonates when you mentioned that because I was feeling, and like they in a way they push you to teach the language in a certain way, using a
Mm-hmm.
certain pronunciation, but then you
Mm-hmm.
realize when people go out there, there's a million different accents and
Absolutely. You can't just
pronunciations.
fit it
So
in the box, can you? So.
yeah, why should you focus on just one from one
Mm-hmm.
particular city, which I'm not going to
Mm-hmm.
name, but like um and even native speakers they have a million different accents, that's
Oh,
that's what I believe
absolutely.
anyway. And when you travel around, you see like there's no one fixed uh
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
accent. And I remember having a chat with an Irish friend a few months ago, and we were doing a live event, and he said, can you please introduce me as a non-native speaker of English? I
Oh,
say, okay, that's
I
an
love
interesting one,
it. That's a
because
very interesting one. Yeah.
technically you are a native speaker because English is the first language in Ireland, for example, but there's also another official language there, which is Irish.
There's a layer, that we don't want to get into now, but English
Yeah.
comes with a huge colonial history. So,
Exactly, exactly. But it was nice he said that because he said, look, language is so different, even like within
hmm
the native speaking world.
hmm
And then as just to go back to what you said earlier, it
yeah.
doesn't really make sense to define the native speaker and to
hmm
say this is
hmm
them, this is us, let's try to fit
hmm
in.
And it's not fair to define them as professionals, professional by passport. It doesn't exist. It took me many years to realize that you become a professional. You cannot be born a professional teacher. It comes from your experience, from your years of work, from honing your art, your crafts in a way. So I think I only started realizing that I'm good enough to sit at the table while I was, I don't know, like had 5, 6 years of experience and I was collecting all these certificates and I was trying to constantly this continuous professional development that was like, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not professional enough, and I would study business and I would study, business communication and I would try to understand engineering vocabulary. Then in reality, the only thing that needed to change was my self-acceptance in a way, because once you have this critic inside, you're never going to be good enough, It's like whatever it is, you will find a reason that is going
Yes.
to poke to you and say, you're not professional, are you?
Yeah, you're not good
Like,
enough. You're never enough. You're never
yeah,
enough. Yeah,
yeah,
like the Depeche
yeah.
Mode song, just can't get enough. But that's true,
Just
yeah.
can't get enough. Hmm.
And so you went through imposter syndrome,
Mm-hmm.
perfectionism, and then at some
Mm-hmm.
stage things changed for you because now you're running a business, you are working, you're doing what you
Mm-hmm.
like. So was
Mm-hmm.
there a turning point for you where things just changed?
I think, well, to be honest, it was getting better with years of experience. I was definitely feeling better. And then in 2022, when the war started, I also had to experience it all over again, because we had to move and I was an outsider and I was like dealing with the massive trauma of relocation and um, but I think at the time I started going to therapy, because I was dealing with emotional turmoil on my own, and I started, like we spent so many hours on just letting my inner critic talk, and then I would listen to myself talking back to me, and I realized that it doesn't make sense, like it doesn't make sense. This is not it doesn't make you less, it makes you more. The way I talk about multilingual brains, that a lot of people think that they need to hide their identity, they need to pretend to be someone else, then in fact it doesn't make sense. It's just like two is better than one. So it's as easy as that. You speak two languages, they speak one, so you are better. No, so
Yeah.
But it
Absolutely.
was, yeah, it was just going through the whole process of, admitting that I am, in fact, valuable as I am, that all these studies that I've done, all the languages that I speak, all the cultures that I've absorbed, they are all valuable, and they are two is more than one. They are more than one
Yeah.
culture or one language that you have. So,
Yes. Multiply, two,
oh
three, four.
yeah,
Absolutely. The more the
absolutely.
merrier.
Absolutely. So you start embracing yourself and you look back and you think, wow, I did that, like I did all of that, it's like I worked, I sat at the table, even if it was terrified, I did that. So, but yeah, that's the whole thing about identity and embracing your identity for what it is. Yes,
Yeah.
and coming back to these two words that you mentioned about fitting in and belonging, like fitting in, you would never really fit in, can you? I mean, you cannot like just erase a part of your
Yeah.
identity and substitute it with someone else.
Exactly. And pretend, just pretend
Hmm.
for how long, really? The question is how long
Yeah.
can you pretend? Uh,
Yeah.
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 And by being someone you are really not, which is
Hmm.
and I another great thing that you mentioned is going to therapy. And
It's
well, it's great that
recommended.
you're talking openly about it because many people are afraid, of
Hmm.
asking for help. But I mean, it totally makes sense to me when you're not feeling well or even when
Hmm.
you are feeling well, actually. There's always a chance that sharing and explaining and getting that different perspective back, it truly
Hmm.
helps. and
Absolutely.
uh, and it's great. Yeah, like I mean, I want to give you kudos for that because you're sharing it openly. So like there's a stigma, people say, oh no, I shouldn't mention that. Like, yeah, I went
But
to
I
therapy.
think, like, to me, it's
It's
kind of, if you're struggling, you don't have to struggle alone. I
yeah,
know that for a lot of people, it's really difficult to accept help, to ask for help, or even to think about the possibility of, having someone to help them. But it doesn't make sense. If you have a headache, you take a pill, like you don't suffer. You don't just sit there and wait until the headache is over. You don't, if you feel pain, there is no way that you're just going to sit there and wait for the pain to be over. I know some people would probably do that, but I was not that person. I was like, okay, I'm definitely hurting. I need someone to help me. I need a pill, give me a pill,
yeah. Yeah, it's slightly different than appeal, but yeah. Of course,
And it was a conversation, right? Not a pill, but it definitely felt better, right?
yes, I guess it's a huge help. Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. And yeah. And so we went through, the imposter, the turning point, and now you have your own business and you're working with professionals. So
Hmm.
how has your life changed since, when you think back, the early days, early years? So how has your life changed, right now? How are you
I
doing right now?
think I think I became much more confident in my own skin, and I've actually started, I started running a business. I want to call it a business. Business sounds so much, so much more pretentious than it really is. But I'm trying to do my best, apart from coaching brilliant professionals across different industries as tech and finance and I really love building communities as well. So I started running international speaking clubs and I started organizing courses for people to help them out, for the others non-native professionals, And I kind of feel that my life is definitely less predictable right now, because there's so many things going on, but it's much more meaningful, To me, it's like I do find a meaning into this, like helping someone feel that they are in fact not less than, that they do not need to compare themselves to the others, but they have to, in fact, find this means and find this, what is it that stops you from speaking up at the meeting? What is it that stops you from sitting at the table? What it is that that I can help you with, and I can definitely share my experience and share my perspective and just talk to people and say, hey, you know what, comparing yourself to the others is not going to it's not going to work, right?
No. And
Yeah.
and you can definitely say, look, I've been there, so let's.
Yeah,
Let's tackle
yeah,
this. Yeah, that's
yeah.
the great approach. And it's fantastic that you can turn that into something that can actually help others. So you turn your personal history into something that is useful.
Mhm.
Yeah, lead by example. Can we say that?
Lead by example. Well, there's a bit of professionalism behind that as well, you
Yeah,
know. So I
sorry, I'm
had to.
biased, I am a bit towards the
I had
corporate
to,
world.
I discovered this whole world, how our emotions can actually hinder our learning. So for a lot of people, they think that you just come to an English teacher and they would tell you that this is present simple and this is present continuous. What I found out that in coaching, it's not actually the case. So you sit down with a person and you start by telling them about their fears and emotions and how that works and how the brain learns, and why is it that. I recently had a conversation with a student of mine because he mentioned like every time he's at the meeting, he can't hear anything. Like suddenly, if someone speaks English, there's no sound at all. Like
Wow.
everything is muffled. And actually, there is a logical and biological explanation to this because your fear system is so powerful that once you have it, like all your internal organs, they go into this safe mode,
Yeah.
like fight or flight, and your inner ear is affected by this. So sometimes when you don't hear someone talking to you in English, think. It's not you being bad at listening. It's just that you're feeling so much fear that it prevents you from understanding, from even hearing the person properly.
Yeah, you go
So
into emergency mode in a way, yes.
yeah, you're going to this shell shock mode and you can't do anything. So for a lot of people, it's like I blank out, I forget the words. I begin to stutter. I don't know what to say. I can't hear the person. So there is an explanation to this. So working on emotions can really help our learners, in so many ways. That's not only the grammar, that's not only the
Yeah.
vocabulary. That's
Pretty unconventional, but truly effective, I would say. Yeah. It's
mm.
it's what needs to be done. Because, yeah, I mean, that affects also people who are fluent or who have like a good level. But
Oh,
it does, yeah,
absolutely.
so that proves that, it's not only vocabulary or grammar, but there's more
Mhm.
to be done. And it's
Absolutely.
great, to have that sort of experience so that you can go and say, look, we can work on emotions as well, which is a
Mhm.
big part of any learning path, any learning journey, in my opinion. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's kind of it. I feel that it's in a way it frees my students a little bit. Like it's just I could see that there is a relief under this. I say, okay, this is not you. Your English is pretty good. I mean, your English is stellar, fantastic. It's good. It's not you. It's your emotions. And they go like, Phew, all right. I thought something. I was going mad for a second. No, you're not
look,
going mad for a second. You don't need to go to a doctor to check your ears. It's pretty conventional. It's pretty fine. We just need to focus on it. What makes you stressed?
exactly.
What's the reason for this? Yeah.
Absolutely. Wow. And Anna, we are towards the end of our chat. So the
Yes.
usual question at this stage is, would you have any recommendations for people who want to have an international experience, either traveling around or from their own place, just people who want to go international, really? What would be your recommendation?
I'd say, well, I would definitely speak from my perspective as an English teacher, and I would say don't chase perfection, chase connection. Instead of aiming at being perfect all the time, aim at connecting to others, speak up, even if your voice shakes, even if you aren't sure about your grammar. No one is going to notice, most probably. Let people see your story, your accent, your personality. This is something that is going to create trust. And yeah, aim at really getting to know the other person. Once you shift this perspective, once you shift the focus from yourself, my English, my mistakes, my pronunciation, my Russian accent, and once you change this focus to another person and you go like, I really want to get to know you. Could you tell me about yourself? Can we create this connection together? So I feel that this is really powerful. So stop thinking about yourself, start thinking about the others. Well, think about yourself a little bit, but
Yeah, but not in the way we usually do.
no, no, not too much. Like if you
Yes,
want to get out there, you
yes.
have to connect. Yeah.
Precious advice. So yeah, connection, definitely better than perfection. Yeah.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Beats it all the time,
Yes,
really.
yes, I am 100% with you there.
Thank you.
Thanks for saying that. We need to say this more and more often, I think, because there's still a
Hmm.
huge bias out there.
Oh
So
yeah.
we'll do our part.
We would just keep repeating it, repeating it and repeating it and repeating it, And I've seen so many brilliant stories when people just really, you give them the green light and you say, okay, you are making the same mistakes again and again and again, but I will allow you to make this mistake. Like mistakes are not problems. It's like
No.
nothing happens if you make a mistake. You could do that. No problem at all. So
Fantastic. Anna, thank you very much.
thank you so much for
It was
inviting me here.
incredible. I loved it.
Thank you.
Sorry. I really enjoyed it. And
Thank you.
yeah, so thank you very much. And if you want to tell people, where can people find you if they want to
You could
connect?
definitely find me on LinkedIn. My name there is Anna Lexenko. You can find it by my little business name, the company that is called Voice It. So you could either do this one or that one. But I would be lurking in Daniela's comments all the time. You could probably find me there as well. Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Anna, for being
Thank you
here
so
with me.
much.
It's been a
It's been a
pleasure.
pleasure.
And
Thank you.
thanks everybody for sticking around and being here with us. And yeah, I'll see you in
Yes.
the next episode. Thank
See
you.
ya. Bye.